Hi. So, I recently talked about how consistency is something I've been struggling with, and I thought I'd talk a bit about what I learned through this. So, first of all, what is consistency? Like, what do I mean by being consistent at something? When is when is a person consistent at a habit? When does something become a habit? Um, I think saying that something has, when something, an action, becomes so natural or easy that you pretty much do it without almost any resistance. Like there's always going to be some resistance, of course. Um, Even like I consider myself, for example, consistent at exercising, but like every time I start, well, every time, most of the time when I start, like there's like that bit of, you know, bit of a barrier to clear. There is some struggle with it, but like it's, I've done it for so long now that it's pretty easy to start, and yeah, when something becomes easy enough where you don't really need to spend a ton of, let's say, mental energy on actually starting, that's when you could consider something consistent. And like, or let's say, I just thought of like, for example, are you consistent at something that's just so easy that it doesn't require any um like, well, that there's no resistance towards it. Not really. So I'd say like you're consistent at something when the amount of, let's say, mental energy, the amount of willpower that is required to do or to start whatever, um, is, let's say, small compared to what it would be for someone who, well, doesn't do that thing all that often. That's a maybe a bit of a complicated way to put it, but like also it does really kind of cover it. Um, but yeah, how to really find consistency? How to really achieve that? Um, Schedules and to-do lists, one or the other, or maybe both even, are just fantastic. Um, Schedule because you know exactly when you'll be doing things, and there that kind of eliminates that require for willpower, because if you just see that, okay, at that time I'm going to be doing that, and you're set on that, it's a lot easier to actually start than if you were just going about your day and you know that, okay, I gotta get this done, but like I don't have any specific time set for it. And the to-do list is similar. Like you can have like these things I gotta get done today. I mean, that doesn't have that like exact time as a schedule does, but for some people that may be better if your day is very uncertain, in terms of its events, and you don't really know when you'll have enough time. But you still know that, okay, I gotta get this done today, so this is my to-do list for today. So that can really be beneficial. But yeah, another thing is kind of figuring out how much you can do. This is one of the things I really failed at personally. I tried to do more than I was able to, and that resulted in me doing less than I knew I could do. So, if you do more than what you're capable of, you're gonna get burnt out. And burnout causes mental health problems. And mental health problems in self-improvement are like, they're effectively the same as like an injury in like a sport or just working out. You know, it stops you from improving for a while, and you may actually regress during that point, like, or that time. So you really should try to avoid burnout, because that only makes things worse. It's not good to do more if all that's going to end with is your mental health being worse. You should take steps that are manageable. So yeah, when you get started on some like self-improvement, you know, even something like 5 minutes, or honestly even less, like whatever you can do in a day is fine. But don't go thinking that you can change your entire day and do like 10 hours of good habits when previously you've been doing none. Because guess what? You cannot. You won't be able to. You may keep that up for like a few days at most. Probably not gonna even reach that. Gonna do like 1 or 2 days and then fail. And then you're gonna go right back to doing nothing. And you're going to feel even worse, because now there's that added feeling of failure and hopelessness. So yeah, avoid burnout. Accept that it takes time to change. It doesn't come overnight, and that and that it takes time. If you just keep working on yourself, steadily increasing the amount that you work for in a day, depending on how much you can do, you will eventually reach a point where, like, almost, if not every second of your day, well, I mean, that's pretty impossible, like, you get the point that, like, most of your day, if not, like, basically all of your day, is productive. And, like, let's be clear about this. Productivity does not mean, like, just work. Like, productivity is, like I believe I mentioned previously, anything that makes your life better, especially in the long run, but sometimes even in the short run. I mean, yeah. And speaking of, like, you know, what things are productive and not. You should be consistent in the right things. So what do I mean by this? I mean that you may be doing good habits, maybe even a lot of different good habits, and that may be great and all, and I'm not saying that like you shouldn't be doing good habits, obviously, but you may, like, if your actions are not taking you closer to whatever your goals are, like your goals could really be anything, but you probably should have some sort of defined goal for what you're aiming for. If not for like a super long term, then at least for like a shorter time then. Your actions should get you closer to that goal. And these actions that take you closer to that goal are what you should be consistent at. And that's not always just work. So rest is really important. Like, it really comes down to work and rest. Pretty much. And social media and video games are not rest. Okay? Watching Netflix is not rest. I'll tell you what's rest. Laying down in your bed and taking a nap. That's rest. Sitting down and just reading a book with like a cup of tea next to you, like, that's rest. Going outside on a walk and just like sitting down and looking and observing the nature around you and just not really thinking about work at that time, that's rest. So anything that kind of gets you off of all this hassle and like busyness of life and just lets you be with your own mind, your own thoughts, and just relax for a second, like, that's rest. And rest is something I know would just, like, even a bit before deciding to record this, I kind of sort of like realized that like I've really been neglecting rest. I certainly put some time into rest, but like I've kept increasing all this like workload. I've just kept on putting more and more work, thinking like, yeah, this will get me to where I want to get to. And I'm not saying it won't, but it has to be balanced with rest. So I really gotta take some time to find time in my schedule to rest. Yeah. I think that about covers it. Yeah. I feel like there's something more that I'm kind of like forgetting now. When I said like consistency in the right things, that you should be consistent in the right things, what I kind of meant by that is really that, like, let's take some generic good habit, let's say journaling. And journaling is a good habit, and I'd certainly recommend it. But let's say you start journaling and you spend like hours a day journaling, but it's kind of like diminishing returns, and you notice that it's not really getting you closer to whatever your ultimate goal is. It could be, and if so, by all means keep doing it. But if you notice that, okay, I mean, it may be a good habit, but it's not really the best possible use of my time. I could be doing this other good habit instead, and that would get me closer to my goals much faster. Then you probably should be focusing on that instead. But yeah, I mean, even things that aren't the most effective can still be good to start off with it if you feel like you're capable of doing those very consistently. Because once again, like, consistency is what you gotta master first. You cannot start off with a huge like workload or change to your lifestyle. Again, that leads to burnout, which in turn leads to whatever mental health problems, and those only make things worse. Yeah. Now that covers it. All right. See you.